Hello there. Let's continue the episode number 3 with Georgi Nenov, the part 2. The first part we talk a little bit about his life and about his work experience. We introduce failure in terms of love, comfort zone, and we end up the first part about unhappiness and about being unhappy as a failure. So from there, let's continue the interview and let's get deeper. Empezamos.
Bienvenidos a The Value of Failure con Carlos Salomón.
And Georgi, how much time can be unhappy before doing this step and realizing that it was a try?
There's no formula for it. I can go back in high school, for example, when you're meeting girls in high school parties, and then you kiss in the evening, and you wake up in the morning, it's like, this is the dumbest idea ever. This is not the person that I really want to spend time with. I cannot talk to this person. We cannot communicate. We're from different planets. So you pick up the phone or meet someone and say, listen, I don't think this will work out. I don't feel happy. Or this can happen in relationships too. It happened to me. I mean, this is how life is. You look for things that you want to have in your life. And when you realize there are things that you don't want to have in your life, you can say, okay, I don't like this. I don't feel happy. I feel abused. I feel used of, and so on and so on. Business-wise, it's the same thing. You don't want the people that you work with to be taking advantage of you, right?
Right.
So
but in love, what I can sense is that it takes you one day, and in business, how many days for you to get out of this failure?
Oh boy, I've had this decision. Actually, I was leaving. I've left probably my first 2 jobs because I didn't like them. I mean, I didn't like the boss as well. He didn't have any values about, okay, there's an anti-motto that I learned from my first boss. It was, no one can grant you and give you what I can promise that I will give you. Which basically means I can promise you anything that you want, but I'm not giving it to you. But to make you think that I'm going to give it to you, so I can keep promising it. And I hate fake promises. This is something that I built my life around. I don't do fake promises. If I tell you, okay, we're meeting and recording, we're meeting and recording. If something happens, I'm going to call you and say, listen, I'm sick, or something happens, my car broke, something happens. But it's going to be the real reason. Because I follow this walk the talk thing.
Okay.
If you say something, you do it. And in relationships, it works like a charm. You don't promise things that you won't do. You don't tell someone we're going out to the restaurant and then pulling back and saying, yeah, it was just, I just told it without thinking that I'm busy. Okay, you're busy, but next time say, okay, my mistake, I really said something that I shouldn't have said. Next time, this won't happen. I won't be telling things that I'm not planning. Even some people lie, not even planning to do things like these things. And for me, this is a failure. For me, the only failure is letting others down. Because it's hard to having when people build on trust is built step by step, and mainly by actions. But when you say things that are not coming to reality, or things that are lies, pure lies, just to comfort someone, this is not doing help to anyone, no one. So if you lie, you need to remember all your lies, which also prevents you from sleeping properly. Like for me, sleep is important, so I don't lie because I don't want to remember who I lied to and what did I say. I prefer to build trust through my actions and through the things that I do. And when people say, hey, can you help me? I help them. When they say, can you help me? And I say, I cannot help you. I'm busy at this day. Can I help you in any other day? Or can I help you on the phone? Can I help you in any other way? So failure is lying. For me, it's lying.
Okay. Let's go to the last two questions. The first one is in terms of your podcast.
Yeah.
I'm interested in, for the new podcasters, like myself included, in what have you failed? Can be small things, just related to your area, and what you wouldn't repeat.
I have failed. Yeah, probably. I found ways that podcasts shouldn't be made. For example, out in the open, in a park, for example. I wouldn't be recording anything in the park again unless I have proper microphones. And this takes a lot of effort and an expertise. So if you don't have the expertise and the experience to say, these microphones are going to record everything that happens in the park, barking included, and cars running in the parallel street next to the park, you don't do it. And you don't put it out in the open, the recorder, because it picks up the wind. And the absolute failure for any podcaster is a listener to stop listening because the sound quality is poor. This is probably the worst thing that you can do, is to record something that is unlistenable. Because the human brain possesses this adaptivity in it, but it goes to a certain point. Let's say that adaptivity also has a comfort zone, and the comfort zone is when the two voices are equal or even. But if we start clapping or making some other funny sounds while we're talking, the brain will be overwhelmed with trying to understand what's going on. And if I constantly change the pitch of my voice, the tone of my voice, and be loud and silent and loud and silent and keep changing all the time, your brain will be, I cannot cope with this anymore. Stop it. I don't want to listen to it. If you watch a very nice YouTube video with extremely poor sound quality, you're either going to be watching it with muted so you don't hear it, or you're going to skip it. And if you taking it further, if you want to have a podcast on video, it's not the video that's most important, it's the audio quality. And right now I'm suffering in my own podcast, because I'm trying to get it better and better and better. And it takes time, it takes tests. So I need to test to see what's the best possible setup. If I don't test it, I won't find out for my personal podcast what's going to work best. Of course, if you have enough money to be recording in a professional studio, you won't have this problem. But you need to invest money into it. I wanted to basically start it in my own way. I didn't want to start directly buying microphones for thousands of euros just to make tests and realize, okay, podcasting is not for me. That's why I started with my iPad, basically. Just, is it for me? Can I see, okay, it's amazing, I feel energized, I feel so good when I meet great people and they become my friends, because spending an hour with someone and getting through his life basically means that he is becoming a connection. He's becoming a friend of yours. And because the beginning of the conversation started with who am I, now I'm like full-time entrepreneur, basically. Because I built my own podcast. It's called the Superhuman Podcast, and it's also literally in Bulgarian, and a fitness program, because both of these things bring value to the listeners, or to the others, like to the customers. It makes them live a better and healthier lives. But I've never had the idea of creating businesses for cash. I wanted to create businesses for value, to help. And they basically, helping became business, not the other way around. So the first thing that I failed it was this one. The second thing that I failed with was, you have an idea about people you've watched on TV that they have something to say. Like mainstream media, superstars from the childhood, like singers.
Stoichkov.
Yeah, for example, Stoichkov would be an amazing person to be talking to about football. But because podcasts go a bit deeper, they go into who this person really is. And I had this conversation last week. I fell into this category. Stoichkov hates two things: journalists and Levski fans. I used to be a Levski fan. This is like CSK and Levski are like the opposite fractions in Bulgaria. It's like Barcelona and Real Madrid, but from the same city. So more of like Barcelona and Espanyol. And I'm not a journalist, but probably in his mind I would be considered as one. And I want to ask him questions about what made him be so persistent and so strong in his will to be playing in the best club in the world. Because I'm a Barcelona fan. And for me, it's Barcelona equals football. Like, I don't know if you're supporting Barcelona, but this is, for me, it's the thing that I imagine when thinking about like playing real football, not winning like trophies only, but like where the football is a religion, like Brazil. And when people do it because they like it, like I do the podcast because I like doing it, not because I'm going to become a millionaire from it. Who knows? Because like Maradona was born in the slums. And not only Maradona was born in the slums, a lot of like Brazilian football players that became top tier football players have started playing football because they like doing it, and they've never stopped because they just like doing it. And we never heard about someone, even Kaká, who is like from a very rich family, he loves playing football. And there's not a single person that started playing football because he's going to become rich from it. It's a wrong motivation. It's extremely wrong motivation. So if you want to do a podcast, a failure would be to start doing it because it's going to bring you money, or it's going to make you like famous. I don't want to be famous. I just want to help others. And it keeps going. I mean, every episode comes and goes. And I had a singer that came on my podcast. I was I thought that he would have something to say, but because I didn't do proper due diligence on the person himself, he was not listening to my questions, and he was... I kind of felt disappointed from this conversation. So it taught me that I needed to look into the person's current state and not idolize him in the way he was before. Especially in this high life world, where people on the surface are kind and nice, and when you talk to them, they're like totally on the flip side. They just they have different personalities depending on who are they talking to. And for me, this huge conflict with my values, that I'm the person that talks to you now, Carlos. I'm the same person that talks to my girlfriend, the same person on my podcast. And like we were talking in the pre-talk about before the interview, it's just me. I don't change. And that's why the people keep coming to the podcast, and they come because they know who I am, they know that what my values are, and therefore they build a bond with me without even knowing me personally. They just know me because they listen to me every week, and I'm talking like 10% of the conversation. Every now and then I say, okay, yeah, I had a similar experience, I went through this and this, or I read this book and I like it. But I talk about the things that are valuable for me and important for me. And that's why I build bonds with my listeners. And they know that I won't be taking them to places when, like, where they do not approve what I'm saying. And I don't want them to think that I'm like always right. It's just my perspective. It's just my point of view. I consider people like good and bad people, like good intentions, bad intentions. I don't like separate them based on race, religion, or anything else. It's people choices. It's their life, their choices. So
I really believe, I prefer to tell you this, in still life, that people will be surprised how you take life and with your perspective. You know, from my background, it's really interesting, like your way of approaching life, let's say.
It's self-thought. No one took me by the hand and said, listen, this is how you treat people, this is how you treat ladies, and this is how you build relationships, this is how you build friendships. My mother came at some point, I was in 5th grade, 4th grade, said, I'm amazed how you develop to build great friendships with the guys that you meet. I was able to talk to people on the bus. Like, never met them before, never met them after. And now I meet a very successful CEO or a guy building a cause in Bulgaria, or business in the States but Bulgarian, or Dr. David Rybak, who is like a psychologist, American, or Gabriel, who is the black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I meet them and I'm nice to them and I'm interested in them. And when we talk after this, we bond, we became friends. It's just people like authentic people to talk to. So it's and everything that I've learned is because I was trying to play with the others, trying to adapt to their environment, their game, or in the relationships, trying to talk and communicate with my girlfriends. When it worked, it worked. When it didn't work, I just say, okay, this is not for me. I'm not feeling happy, so I suppose that we need to split up. And there we go. And I was sincere. And being sincere might hurt, but it just basically builds your integrity around don't do things that you don't like and don't make you happy. You just say, okay, I'm not feeling happy, because I ended up in the love triangle when I was in high school. First relationship, love triangle. Perfect. My best friend and another girl. And then I realized that I don't want this to happen to me again. I cannot say it didn't happen. I not that I know of, but still I don't control this. But I control that I don't want this to be caused by me to any other person. Anytime. So I was like, okay, I see what it is. It doesn't feel good. And because it doesn't feel good, I don't want to any other person to experience it because of me. So I'm not doing it to anyone. And it's like no-go, like the anti-motto that I learned from my boss, like with the promises. So if I don't want to be with someone, I say, okay, listen, I don't feel comfortable, happy, good. Let's end this. Even if they don't want to end it, it's you cannot make others change their mind if they don't want to change their mind. I mean, I want to share like a personal, like very, very personal story where I learned the difference between things you cannot change and the things you can change. And when I was working, before I met Neda, and I was working in this great company, Lufthansa Technik, and I was driving my BMW and going to football and fitness and spending time, like going out and drinking with my friends beers and enjoying life as a 20-something-year-old single person. And I felt really good. I woke up in the morning, I knew, okay, I'm going to work, then I go to the gym, then I come back, I go to sleep happy. I don't end up, I hate drama, so it was like my perfect life. And one day, it was June 2015, my father calls and he said, can you go to Hanover in Germany? And I said, why? He said, you need to go there because your cousin is being accepted in a hospital there. And they don't know English and German. And you can help. I was like, all right, no worries. So I take the flight and I meet with my cousin and his father in Hanover. And on the way there, basically, like a couple of days before that, I understand that my cousin has a cancer. He's 8 years older than me, like something like that. Less than 10 years older than me. And the last time I met him on his wedding, which was 2008. So like for 7 years, I haven't met him. 7-8 years. So I go to Hanover, I meet him, and I see him. He's like, he looks very sick. I mean, he can barely walk, and he's 37, 38 years old. And they bring me to the guy, the chief of the hospital of this particular section about the cancer treatment. And the professor says, listen, I've watched through the discs, through the data, we can do this, we can make the operation. And I say, okay, great, that's awesome, then what can we do to send my cousin to the hospital? He says, okay, go to the administrative part and then talk to this lady. And I go there, and the lady says it's going to cost like 50,000 euro. And my cousin says, there's no way. And his father is saying, this is not your decision to make. And we went through the paperwork. He got accepted into the hospital. And I fly back to Sofia because, Lufthansa. So I can fly. I can basically, I could fly on the jump seat. So I've been dropped out of flight like once, 2 times. No. I've been left behind only once for like 5 years in the company. So there's always a place for a Lufthansa employee on the board. So I fly back, and then they accept him, they treat him, they prepare him for the operation, and 1 week later is the operation, and I I've told my boss, he knows that I'm going to receive an information on short notice and I'm flying. He's okay, of course, like this is, empathy is very important there to have it with your boss. If your boss doesn't have any empathy for you, quit your job now. Because he doesn't care who you are and what's important for you, and this is something that I don't tolerate personally. So I go there, and we're waiting after the operation. Like we entered the intensive care. He's there lying. He can only like look, and everything is tubes and beeping monitors. And we hope that everything went well because, the doctor said everything is okay. And the doctor comes probably 2 hours late on a visitation. He comes to my cousin, places his palm on his chest and says, "I'm very sorry, my boy, but we couldn't do it." And then the internal fight in my mind starts. It's like, I didn't translate properly. I didn't hear something, and I talk in English, and I'm sure that my English is quite good, and I can understand. We can and we cannot do it. I was like, where did I make the mistake? What did I do? I mean, how is this possible? And I go back to Sofia, and I'm very I'm shaken because I thought everything will go well. It didn't. And I was aware that my cousin is going to die because this was the last resort. It was his second operation, and he's been fighting with this for a long time. And I sit on my desk, and I was probably night shift. There was no one in the office, and I was just I didn't know what to do, who to talk to. Like in Bulgaria, we have a saying: your boats have sunken. It's like your feelings are like sinking. You don't feel well. And I messaged my first guest on my podcast, Lazar, who is a friend of mine, and I'm his best man. Became his best man this year. And I told him, listen, I have this problem. My cousin went to a hospital, and the doctor couldn't do it. The operation was not successful. So basically, it means that sooner or later he's going to pass away. And he said, listen, there's a prayer called Serenity Prayer. Have you heard of it?
No.
The Serenity Prayer says, I'm not religious, but it's related to faith, and faith and religion are different things for me. So the prayer says, God grant me serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the ones that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And taking out the religious out of it and thinking about the words, serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. I mean, if you miss your flight, it's something that already happened. It's something in your past. If you did a failure or a mistake before, it's something that's in your past. You cannot change other people's feelings and their decisions. You can only change how you react to your life and what actions and words do you use for your own life. And the courage is to do it, because if you don't do anything, you're going to be rolling down the stream of the river, and the river is going to take you wherever the river wants to take you, not where you want to swim out of. So this situation made me realize that there are things that I can be worried about. I can stress over them a lot. Breakups, business ventures, failures, broken episodes, technical wise. I'm going to talk about this in a second, just remembered something. But the only thing you can do is acknowledge it, learn from it, and say, listen, the recording stopped at the 40th minute. would you please come again and we can record it again? It's going to be even better than before. I'm very sorry. It's my mistake. I'm a huge fan of the extreme ownership principles by Joko. Have you heard of Joko?
No.
He's a former Navy SEAL, and he has his own podcast called Joko's Podcast, of course, and he has a couple of books. First one is called Extreme Ownership. It's about owning everything, owning your world. So, if you promise something, deliver it. If you promise that you won't do it, don't do it. I mean, when you do a mistake, take the blame. Take the blame. It's your fault because you did it. In the situation with my cousin, it was nothing that I could do. The doctor said he would do it. He didn't do it, and there were no plan Bs. So I could have spent like months being like sobbing and being sad, or I could spend months calling every week my cousin in Varna. Hey, how are you? How are you feeling? Even me and my girlfriend, we went there to see him, talk to him, spend some time with him, with his family, with his son and his wife. And even now we are talking every now and then. When I go to Varna, I visit his wife and his son. We talk. We have a very nice relationship. And his parents basically told me that I did everything that I could, and they were thankful. But inside, I could have like killed myself with all these questions. Where did I make a mistake? I didn't. It's just something that I couldn't change. I did everything that was possible for me. I went there, got him inside. He did the operation. This was the last way, and this is how life works. You did everything that you could. There was a failure. It didn't end up in the way that you wanted it to. Then you say, okay, what can I learn from it to make it better next time? Like how to own this problem, not say it is the guest's problem because he was high on like marijuana or something. Like next time, if you want to make sure, ask him not to smoke pot. Or ask him to put in his calendar that this date is about recording. Or if you want a place that's silent, look for a way to have it in advance, not meeting the guest somewhere and then where to go to record. It's something that you're prepared. I was expecting that you don't have a place to record right now, but it was okay for me to find it. But you asked for it. You said, "Hey, would you have a place where we can record?" Of course. But the thing is that you were proactive and looking for solutions. We could have found another way. We could have recorded at my home and everywhere, but like the failure would have been not messaging me and saying, "Hey, Georgi, I want to have you on my podcast." The failure would have been not trying. Is the only way to fail is to not do anything, just to keep following the flow of your life without making any intentional action to change it. If you don't like it, you can change it. If you don't like it because you're overweight or obese, you can change it by limiting your calorie intake or putting sport. Or if you don't like it because you don't like your job, look for another job. I mean, yeah, right now it's kind of harder than before, but yeah, life has gone through the Second World War, First World War, Second World War, and so on and so on.
My last question was, what have you learned that books, your parents, seminars have taught you? But I think the example of your cousin has definitely answered my question, and I really find it valuable. So I would like to ask you where we can find Georgi.
Yeah. You can find it on the superhumanpodcast.net. Unfortunately, most of the episodes are in Bulgarian, but there are 2 in English. Dr. David Rybak and Gabriel Marangoni. Also, you can find it on Instagram, the Superhuman Podcast, Facebook, the Superhuman Podcast, and in the podcast platforms, it's only in Bulgarian name. But if you go to the website, you have the links there. Unfortunately, I was not able to tell you 2 failures that I did that I remembered, technical-wise, about my podcast. The first one is episode 6. I left the iPad on a table, and we were on a terrace. And it was sunny. It was spring, but sunny. And when you receive your phone and your iPad, you get a instruction that you don't leave it exposed to sunlight, direct sunlight. Yeah. It had a case, so I thought, it's going to be okay. No, it wasn't okay. It stopped recording in the middle of like an hour and a half conversation. So we had to re-record it. And the second time was, we had this Zoom over there that I'm recording with right now. And we were recording 2 episodes last Sunday. And on the second episode, on the 40th minute, the SD card ran out of space, and we did not. And the guy that's helping me, Simeon, he's helping me with the video and the audio recording and the montage, the editing and everything. He was asking me, "Did you format the card when you put it in the Zoom?" I was like, "No." I'm like, "It's like 16 gigs." He was like, "Yeah, but we had like 15 episodes on it." I was like. So I had to call this guy and tell him, "Listen, I screwed it up. It's my mistake. Sorry about this. I know your time is valuable, but please, I would really want to have you back," and we record it again. So make sure that you're prepared. You have enough space on your phone. You have enough space on your camera or whatever you're recording. Make a checklist of the things that you need to do, like have a plan B, have another phone with you, or just make sure you are prepared, like you fall to the level of your preparation. In the podcast it works. What I can finalize the conversation with is, don't be scared. There's nothing to be scared about. It's like failure is there and it's always been part of our lives. Have you failed in any other endeavor in your life? Is it like, have you failed in stop playing football because someone told you to, or like because of injury, or life is full of failures, ups and downs. But the thing that I want to end up the conversation with is the thing that's written on King Solomon's ring. And there is written, "These two shall pass." Everything shall pass. The success will pass. The failures will pass. The thing that's going to keep helping us get better is what have we learned from the failures and the successes? What actually did happen after we did something in the right or the wrong way? The options are, we blamed ourselves, or we praised ourselves, or we sat down and said, why did this work? Why did this work so well? What happened to make it work so well? The guest shared the podcast. The guest was very authentic. He spoke on a lot of like personal stories, examples, great content, etc. Or what went wrong? Not why, but what. Like, what are the steps that really went wrong? How can I improve it for the next time that I'm recording? When you record outside and there's shitty recording as a file, you just say, okay, next time I'm not recording outside. It's quite obvious. But sometimes we just don't learn the lessons. And the lessons are hard when you failed, and even harder when you have succeeded, because you don't look for them. You assume that the success belongs to you. Success does not belong to you. Your effort makes it worth it. Your effort makes the success. The time that you spend solving mathematical problems leads you to the success that you have. Not the other way around. Don't assume that it belongs to you. Yeah, it's easier for some people, harder for others. It's easier for someone that's blind to be drawing paintings, but it might not limit him. He can find a way to do it. There are so many examples of amazing people that have went through these limitations and did amazing stuff. You can do it too.
Благодаря, Georgi. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was really valuable for me.
Yeah, gracias for the opportunity. Yeah, we can follow up if you want to. We can do it on Zoom or remotely, and I'm very thankful that you invited me to. The first international podcast that I'm invited to, but hopefully it was helpful to your audience. There's a Tim Ferriss quote from Tribe of Mentors that I found. It's extremely helpful for people like you that have started. No hurry, no pause. No need to overthink it. Just keep going. Keep going. Don't focus on results. Focus on what you like doing and keep doing it.
And that was the interview. As a wrap-up from Georgi, he told me that fear of failing, there are actually many people that are scared of succeeding because they would lose their identity. Failure as not trying, failure as lying because of all the work that involves would be too tiring. Failure as looking the wrong interest. Example that he gave us, it was become a football player to be rich and not for your passion of playing football. Failure, as I say, as not trying, just going with the flow. And something that I would like to really highlight is all around what he says, that things that you can change and things that you cannot change. The serenity to accept the ones that you cannot change and the courage to change the ones you can. And the wisdom to difference them. If you don't do it, then the river will take you wherever it wants and not where you want to go, And when you do something wrong, he told me that you have to acknowledge, you have to learn from it. Own the problem and not blame the others. Make sure that you do this process. So that was it, guys. Thank you so much for being there. And see you in the next episode.